Welcome to another episode of the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing. This week, the Chief Secretary, Kelvin Charles, addresses the media.
I would have issued a release, so to speak, in respect of my New Year's message. And I wish to begin today by quoting some aspects of that release, because I think the New Year's message is particularly relevant as it sets both the context and the tone for 2018. So as I stated in that document, as we usher in the new year, we also usher in a time of hope, compassion, peace, and goodwill. It is a time of new beginnings, as well as a time to settle unresolved matters and move forward. I added later down that over the past 11 months, I have witnessed the collective resilience and dedication of Tobagonians who are determined to see this island develop both socially and economically. I made the point that we have the capacity to be a strong, determined, and proud people who remain deeply rooted in our rich heritage, traditions, and culture, and that our strong sense of community has always been a way of life for us, and that for the most part, we have successfully remained deeply rooted in our value systems, and that's good. However, while we remain well-intentioned and purpose-driven, we must be cognizant of some of the challenges that we face as an island. That notwithstanding, going forward, we will continue our development thrust in relation to the broad areas of emphasis that I have outlined since coming into office. And those relate, of course, to our agricultural sectors, our tourism sectors, the issue of manufacturing, and encouraging entrepreneurship. So we will be emphasizing much of that in this period, and that, of course, will be buttressed or supported by much work in respect of our construction sector. We propose to accelerate our construction sector because, as you may know, it is one of the sectors that can quickly generate economic activity, can put idle resources to work, and can contribute to a growth in an island's or country's gross domestic product. I would have made the appeal once again in my speech or in my missive that it would take a collective effort on all of us for us to develop Tobago in the manner in which we would like to see it. The truth be told, the Executive Council provides leadership. Those of us who have our various responsibilities must discharge those responsibilities diligently. We placed it very simply: an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. So that the Tobago we wish to develop, we must recognize that as citizens or as residents, we do have our responsibility. So that I wish to assure you and the rest of Tobago that as an assembly, as an executive council, we are committed to ensuring the continued development of the island of Tobago, and therefore the bases that we would have set out before, which include but are not limited to building and fostering partnerships and relations with non-governmental organizations, state organizations, the central government, will continue. Because at the end of the day, the bigger picture is the development of the island of Tobago. So I take this opportunity to wish all of Tobago, and by extension all of Trinidad, a most blessed, holy, and productive 2018. Now, at our Executive Council meeting today, there were a couple decisions that we did take that the community of Tobago needs to be advised about. One had to do with the construction of 5 ECC centers. We would have triggered the process. As you know, the government of Trinidad and Tobago did access an IADB loan for the construction of ECC centers, 5 of which are to be built in Tobago. So we have triggered that process today by reference to the approved note, and we will begin to drive the process for the construction of these schools. These schools are to be located at Roxborough, Belgarden, Plymouth, Courland, and Bonaccord. We shall be starting with the first 4 as we await clearance on the land for the 5th school. Having said that, I wish to draw your attention to the fact that we would have received formal notification from the First Citizens Bank in response to our request for a recall of the payment via wire transfer of the amount of $6,471.70 United States dollars. And they have advised that they were able to recall that wire transfer. So this is one of the issues, as you know, which would have been referred to the fraud squad, so that that sum of money has been successfully recalled. We are awaiting efforts in respect of the larger sum. Now, there are some issues in the local environment which I would speak to, and I don't know why we like to engage in some of the speculation that we seem to enjoy. I have been hearing about a reshuffle. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, I know of no reshuffle. I have contemplated no reshuffle, and therefore that is idle and mischievous talk. So at this time, there is no planned reshuffle.
What I would like to know is with respect to the motion of no confidence. I'm sure you would have heard Mr. Watson Duke stating that at the next assembly sitting, he will be bringing up a motion of no confidence, and he is also calling for your dismissal. What's your take on the matter?
In respect of his desire to move a motion of no confidence in the Chief Secretary, as you know, that is provided for in the legislation. Act 40 of 1996. So that I have absolutely no difficulty if he thinks that he can pilot such a motion. What is interesting, however, is that I trust that that will be the start of an inclination to operate within the law. Because, as you know, we all as assemblymen would have taken the oath of office, which speaks to the issue of upholding the Constitution and the law. So it would be nice if all our efforts and all our actions are consistent with the law.
In your opinion, would you say as the THA Chief Secretary, it's almost a year in terms of the THA's, the new THA administration. Would you say you are happy with your tenure thus far?
I think, generally speaking, I think yes, because as you may recall, we came into office at a time when, for the first time over the last 4 to 5 years, there was parliamentary reduction of approximately $450 million. In addition to that, we had, in respect of our reduced resources, to liquidate a back pay debt to TI-Ritchie workers. The total of that debt was $140 million. We did that. And after doing all of that, we were able to maintain employment levels throughout the year. And that is no small feat, ladies and gentlemen. It is a significant achievement. Let's not take that lightly, because we just have to look next door and realize what is happening in Venezuela, for example, but more so even in Trinidad, persons have been losing their jobs. The state, meaning the THA, has been able, by reference to maintaining that level of employment, and as I did indicate some time ago, because of that, there was a certain level of spend that continued to exist in the Tobago economy. We were able to keep the economy of Tobago largely buoyant. Of course, the issues relative to the air bridge and the sea bridge would have impacted, and we have spoken about that. I have spoken about it. The Prime Minister has spoken about it, and we acknowledge that it is one of the issues that we did not solve with the level of alacrity that would have been required, and we acknowledge that. In fact, the Prime Minister has taken full responsibility and for the process, and in fact, even in the midst of criticisms, as you are aware, this determined that the way to treat with it, after all the other options would have failed, would have been to establish a subcommittee of the cabinet. So apart from that, I think that in holding the Tobago Ship of State together, providing the requisite leadership, because you also are aware that many of the persons are first-timers, they are young, there is a learning curve, because we talk about giving young people opportunities to lead. I did that. And I place young people or young persons in positions, but I have to mentor them and shepherd them and so on, because at the end of the day, these young persons and those like yourselves, if you wish to make the transition, are the ones who would have to take the island forward. So I think that we have done creditably in all circumstances.
I know you said that there was no discussion about a cabinet, not cabinet, but THA movement of secretaries. There's no reshuffle, right?
There's no such decision. It's your humble servant would do that.
So you didn't even think about it at all? One thought?
No, I never contemplated, as I said.
Okay.
Mischief in the society.
Okay.
Yes, I have never contemplated that. Okay. I've had no discussion with anyone. I've not mooted the subject with anyone. So I can't tell you where that originated from. Mm-hmm. I can only put it down to mischief.
Just my view, this view is not of CCN TV6, just my view. In terms of Carnival upcoming, I'm thinking that a number of workers have not been paid their outstanding monies. We have been told health workers, even social services. I have a family and she hasn't been paid her social services grant for 4 months. So my personal foundation has been assisting, linking with other foundations to help this family monthly to pay her rent, etc. Just on my view, I'm thinking that Carnival could be cancelled and you just ensure that all workers in Tobago are paid their monies.
Well, first of all, your premise may be flawed because monies have been made available for the payment of all workers in Tobago. The issue of workers not being paid, or some workers not being paid at the Division of Health and Wellness and Family Development, is an issue that is actively engaging my attention and that of the Chief Administrator. At this time, I will say no more on that. All right, now in respect of the non-payment of a grant, I am particularly curious about that.
It's a disability grant because she has a special needs
And
child.
I would be happy if you can make the details available to me in writing so that I can have it
The
investigated.
mother, she also has cancer, so she has to be back and forth between Trinidad and Tobago to acquire treatment.
So provide me with the relevant information. But I must applaud the work of the NGO to which you referred, the foundation, because we need more organizations like these to demonstrate the level of goodness that we know resides within the hearts of Tobagonians. And in fact, I would have indicated, as you know, that I will work closely with non-governmental organizations as we seek to develop the island. And I can tell you that even in my own electoral district recently, as I was distributing some hampers, I did come across some situations that I found quite, should I say, heartrending. And I have made a personal commitment that I would help some of those people personally. You know, so that I know that there are persons out there in need. And that is why, as part of our reorganization, we had indicated that our social officers would be redirected from working out of head offices, but in the communities where they can more quickly spot these situations and take proactive action to treat with them.
I know you said that you're satisfied with the performance of your administration over
Correct.
the past year. When you got into power within the People's National Movement, you rode on a wave of a fresh face, fresh start, and I guess you would have taken that into the elections as well. Do you believe that you have given Tobago a fresh start over the past year?
Certainly. As a matter of fact, if and coming over the next couple of weeks, I shall recount some of the initiatives and where we have reached. Community development, for example. We could begin with the philosophical change and the redesignation of the division. And I don't know if you have been following their stewardship, because sometime, I think it was in the month of December, there was an Achievement Day activity where over 770 persons graduated from their technical vocational programs, the biggest or the largest number in the history of that division's activities. Yes? I just made reference to having social workers work out of communities. That also was in conjunction with community development, who in fact deployed personnel in the various communities. That wasn't done before. That's a new beginning. That was a fresh start, if I could give you that example.
Yesterday, the Office of the Prime Minister sent out a press release saying
Yes.
that they will meet with the Chamber as well as
Yes.
the Assembly. Any insight into what is going to be discussed with the THA?
In respect of the THA, we shall be providing the Prime Minister with an outline of our developmental program and to seek to ensure that resources that have been stated that are coming our way do come our way. Because I can tell you, we had a meeting with the Minister of Finance on Tuesday, the first working day of the year. We meaning the Deputy Chief Secretary and myself. And again, the minister, it was a very fruitful meeting, but the minister, in fact, did remind us of the challenges in respect of revenue generation, because some of us are not paying our taxes.
Did you request the meeting with the Prime Minister, or was it arranged by the Office of the Prime Minister?
Which meeting?
The meeting with the Assembly and the Prime Minister to come.
Right. So let me advise that the Prime Minister and I also had, we spoke on the first working day of the year. You know, you see some of these things are done so quietly, but because of the level of toxicity, everything happens, they feel it is not done on the basis of collaboration. So we did speak on Tuesday, and we agreed because he was coming to Tobago to meet with the chamber, and we agreed that it would be a good opportunity for him to meet with the entire House of Assembly at the same time. So he's going to meet with us on the Tuesday, where we will have that conversation.
So we're coming to the end of the year, end of the first year of the new legislature. In your estimation, how would you rate the performance of the minority?
Well, you know, I'm not going to get into that. No, I'm not going to get into that. I'll tell you why. I have been on record. I have been on record of saying that my observation is that as a society we're too toxic. As a society we engage in too much negativity. Now, that is not to say we can't be constructively critical. I think I would have shared with you the perceptions of 3 persons outside of Trinidad and Tobago who came here to do work inside Trinidad and Tobago, and their perception of us as a society. Now, we may like to think of ourselves in a particular way, but we are not alone in this space. And a lot of times, persons, institutions respond to us, not how we may see ourselves, but in respect of how they see us. On the last time I met with you here, I reminded you of an article by Diana Mahabir Wyatt and how we lost an opportunity for investment that could have resulted in 300 high-paying jobs. Now, as a leader of Tobago, I must be concerned about that. And therefore, I am not inclined to engage in the kind of rhetoric that is likely to do more harm than good to the brand of Tobago, especially in circumstances where we are seeking to encourage investment and encourage persons to come here as we seek to boost our tourism sector, which I would want to remind you would be a significant sector in generating employment directly and at the same time as a market for our agricultural sector. I would be negligent if just for the sake of glamour and theater, I engage in that kind of rhetoric. Kelvin Charles did not take the position or did not make the sacrifices he did make and enter politics to contribute to that. I would really like to see the face of the island change in respect of that kind of thing. And a more positive ethos emanating from the island of Tobago. However, I am mindful enough to know about politics, and therefore there are some things that would play out in the theater of politics and in the political space. At the level of the legislature, for example, we shall do battle there. Yes, that's the place for it. Outside of that, I would expect that all of us as residents and citizens of Trinidad and Tobago would operate on the basis of the law. When I perceive and I'm satisfied that the law has been transgressed, I am duty-bound to act. Outside of that, I shall not engage in some of the theater that seem to characterize the behavior of some of us. In order to do that, I shall go on a stage. You may or may not know that I used to act at one time. I was a dancer, folk dancer, and also at West Village. So I do have the capacity, I do have some of those skills. But those skills are best, in my respectful view, left for the appropriate spaces.
My question is with respect to the air and the sea bridge. Mr. Charles, we're still having serious challenges with the sea bridge and the air bridge. We were promised by the Prime Minister that around Christmas or thereabout, things would be a little easier for us. It has not been that way. As Chief Secretary, how do you feel?
Let me answer you this way. I was at that session in which the Prime Minister spoke, so I understood fully the context and the words in which he indicated. For me, the issue has always been one of resolution. And I know that many persons would have loved to see a situation where I engage the central government in a way that would have suggested a battle. As far as I'm concerned, the issue was there was a problem, and how does one move to resolve the problem? We have acknowledged that the efforts that would have been made prior to the last incarnation, and I'm saying last incarnation meaning the putting together of this committee, this subcommittee of the cabinet, those efforts did not bear the anticipated fruit, except for the fact that there is the Cabo Star. The passenger ferry remains elusive. I would have responded to a question in the House, you may recall on the last occasion, where I indicated that I am satisfied with the progress that would have been made by that committee. That satisfaction has been reinforced because I did raise the issue with the Honorable Prime Minister on Tuesday, as well as with the Minister of Finance. From where I sit, and given the information I have, it is at a delicate stage, but I feel confident that all things being equal, an appropriate announcement should be made in the not too distant future. We have had a situation in this country already, and I did make reference to it even in the House, where in one of the attempts, we had almost gotten to the point of signing on the dotted line when some mischievous information, because you know the internet and so on, so whatever is said here is communicated worldwide, would have generated a change of mind in respect of the particular vendor. So if you find that I am being careful with what I'm saying, it is because I would not want to say anything that may result in the flood of criticisms that normally accompany some comments like this, and we end up back to square one. Because the truth be told, for some, they would like nothing better than for the situation to remain unresolved. For me, I would want to see that it has been resolved as quickly as possible. A significant length of time has passed, and as I indicated when I started, there are some unresolved matters that the time has come for us to treat with. That has been one of them. In respect of the air bridge, I can tell you that in our conversation with the Honorable Minister of Finance, he has agreed that we would furnish him with a proposal that will, for consideration in respect of, in particular, fleet renewal. So we are committed to do that because, you know, these things would have cost implications among other things. So that in many instances, ladies and gentlemen, whilst we may not be out there making a set of statements, it is not that negotiations and conversations are not taking place. One of the things that you must bear in mind is that, in essence, life is about making decisions and solving problems. And at the end of the day, you are measured. I'm not sure by how much noise you make, but by what you achieve.
Thank you for staying with us for the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing for the week ending January 6, 2018.